between the Amazon River and the Andes Mountains is Inti Suyu, where lush rainforest, dangerous waters, and high altitudes host some of the most thrilling hunting in all of the world. It truly is a hunter's dream, but spend a night here and you'll see there's another side to paradise. Deadly predators, altitude changes, and meddling from outside forces is making life difficult for us. So if you could offer your services, we'd really appreciate it. We'll even introduce you to Pablo. He's not much of a talker, though. You see, there's more than just adventure waiting for you in Peru. But if you don't experience it yourself, you'll never know what's hiding just beneath the surface. Welcome to Peru. Welcome to Inti Suyu.
Good evening, fellow hunters. That was the first full trailer for the new Inti Suyu Peru Hunting Reserve coming to the Hunter Call of the Wild here in 2 weeks on June 16th. There was a lot revealed to us, both in the new trailer and over on their Steam page today, including the overwhelming majority of the new roster. I believe, looking at it, out of the 14 confirmed species, 10 of which are going to be new, I think we have all 4 returning species confirmed, and 7 of the brand new ones confirmed. So going off of that, we're going to go over the species that were revealed today, and I am going to plug in what I think are most likely to be the final remaining 3 species, just based on likelihood due to the area, and likelihood knowing EW's tendencies to what they like to include on each map. So first off, starting with our returning species, we have it confirmed very early on in the trailer that the white-tailed deer and collared peccary are both 100% locked in to be returning, and both of which are almost shoo-ins for a map like this, being the whitetail is huntable across pretty much all of North and South America, though I do wonder, with these being South American whitetail, which do tend to be slightly different from the whitetail deer we have here in the States, I wonder if they'll include some sort of differences to separate them. If they're going to be counted as a returning species, I kind of doubt that. And then the collared peccary is another common species that we've had throughout Central America already, all the way down to Parque Fernando in Patagonia, so their inclusion also makes a lot of sense. And while I don't think that we get to see them at all in the trailer, one of the images over on the Steam page for it 100% confirms that the puma will be returning. And so that's another large cat alongside one that we'll be talking about later in this video. And then while they're not entirely confirmed, I believe the ducks that we see in the trailer are in fact a returning species and that it is going to be a second map for the cinnamon teal. Again, we can't entirely confirm it, but looking at them, the markings, they're shadowed out, so it's hard to tell, but the markings across their backs, and I think I see just the barest smidge of blue on one of their wings, I think that it's pretty likely that they're the cinnamon teal. But with those being our 4 returning species, we have 10 brand new species on the map, and the trailer confirmed, or between the trailer and the Steam page, we have 7 species confirmed. We have, of course, the headliner for the map, the jaguar, the second big cat on this map, and based on what we see in the trailer, I think that it is highly likely that they will have a stalking mechanic like the tigers on Sundarpatan do, and I think that the new map-exclusive great one that they were teasing us just might be a jaguar, but we'll just have to wait and see come the final confirmation here in a few days. The next new animal to be confirmed for the map is the capybara, which are the largest rodent in the world, and based on... we see them swimming in one of the photos as well, so I'm wondering if they're going to be a semi-aquatic animal in a similar vein to how the beavers are, though I bet that they would have a behavior where they spend time in the water and then come out of the water to graze and rest, rather than actually having the specific swimming and logging behaviors that the beavers do. The next species confirmed, and one that I am very excited for, is our third crocodilian. The black caiman has been confirmed for the map. These are the largest member of the alligator family, which means that they should be even larger than the American alligator in this game. And while I find it kinda doubtful, I do really hope that we might get a multi-mount for both the caiman and the American alligator. Though again, seems unlikely, but a guy can hope. Another species that we've had confirmed for this map, which is a very surprising one to me, is the spectacled bear. Now, a lot of the creatures on this map are actually not huntable in real life, and those of you who saw my Sundarpatan predictions video back when that map was first coming out know what my stance is on the inclusion of species that are not huntable in real life in this game. However, Sundarpatan did a very good job at explaining it and tying it into the history of the reserve itself. So if this map is able to do something cool like that again, I'm here for it, and at the end of the day, it is just a game, but I do personally like when they go out of their way to make sure that the reserves all feel as realistic and natural as possible. And another species beyond the spectacled bear that falls into that not huntable in real life category are the vicuña. These are the wild ancestors of the domestic alpaca, which actually have a long history with hunting, though they are no longer legally huntable anywhere in the world. But again, just like with the spectacled bear, I feel like they'll probably wind up explaining and tying it into preserve management, similar to how the tigers were on Sundarpatan. Another confirmed species for the map that's in a bit of a weird spot in terms of real-life hunting is the Andean or Taruca deer. Now, I have looked up and down on the internet and found multiple conflicting accounts on whether or not these guys are actually huntable IRL, though the general consensus seems to be no, at least in Peru. But they are a visually distinct local deer species that definitely stand out more than the common whitetail, so they are a welcome addition for somebody who, like me, who really appreciates animals with antlers and horns in these games. Now, the last confirmed species we have is one that really caught me off guard, and is only confirmed via images on the Steam page, and that is the South American Coatimundi. I assume that they were picked due to the fact that they fill the same sort of niche as something like a raccoon does up here in the US, though I also have not seen any signs of them also being an animal that people hunt at all. So I wonder if this is going to be like a Tibetan fox style situation where they were just kind of picked to be an animal that fills that tier 2 niche to fill out the scaling on the roster. But those are all of the confirmed species that we have for the map. And that brings us to the last 3 slots for species that we do not know yet. And not to contradict with other content creators out there who I've seen guessing things all the way from feral goats and sheep all the way to giant anteaters even. But I think that it is highly likely that these 3 remaining species are all going to be small game animals. And I think that that is the most likely path due to, as I was just talking about, EW's general tendency to try to fill out all sorts of bases when they come out with these new maps. So, looking at the small Tier 1, Tier 2 animals that we have on the map already, I think that we can use that to narrow down the types of animals that these last 3 spots will be. And given that we already have a Tier 2 raccoon fox-sized animal in the Kawadi, and we already have a duck on the map in either the cinnamon teal or whatever other species this is, if that isn't the cinnamon teal, but I'm pretty convinced that it is, I think that that leaves 3 obvious slots on this map remaining. A goose species, an upland bird species, and a Tier 1 mammal species, which would usually be a hare of some kind. However, here in Peru, there are only 2 animals that would really fit that small game mammal kind of mold. One being the European hare, which would be an easy plug-in, but that would also be a returning animal. So the only likelihood that I see that being the case is if if those ducks are not cinnamon teals. Then they could probably slot in the European hare into this slot, since it is an invasive animal in these areas that it is legal to hunt. Though I think more likely what they will go with is the Peruvian viscacha, which is another small mammal, but it is not a rabbit per se. They look a little bit like a cross between a rabbit and a squirrel, and they are actually a close relative of chinchillas. But apparently they are hunted in these areas, and it would be actually really nice to get a new Tier 1 small mammal that isn't a rabbit in this game. Maybe that's taking us one step closer to the inclusion of squirrels in the future. Now, as for the larger waterfowl species, I think that the obvious pick here is the Andean goose. They're a perfect slot-in for the way that Call of the Wild handles geese, and they are one of, if not the largest waterfowl that is regularly hunted in Peru, so I think that they would be an excellent standout bird species on this map. As for the upland bird species on the map, I think that it is highly likely that we will get one of the 2 species of Peruvian perdiz on the map. Now, perdiz is a Spanish word that translates to partridge in English. However, the 2 birds that they hunt in Peru that are classified as perdiz are actually both species of tinamou, which, while they do look like your usual upland bird, are actually more closely related to ostriches than they are to any other kind of bird on the planet. And the 2 species that would be most likely for them to include on that would be either the crested tinamou or the spotted tinamou. Though for my own choice, I would lean towards the crested tinamou just because of that striking crest on their head would really make them stand out a bit more. Now, there is one other thing that I could see them doing in place of an upland bird on this map, and that would be to finally introduce doves to the game. Apparently, dove wing shooting is big in Peru, and they have several species native to the area that are huntable, though my pick for the one to include, if this is what we're getting, which I wouldn't be too fussed either way if we get a tinamou or a dove in the game, though I would lean towards doves just for the inclusion of something completely new, since the tinamou do have that kind of standard ground bird body shape. But if we do get doves on this map, I really, really hope that we get the West Peruvian dove. Those blue rings around their eyes really stand out. And including doves would open the door for inclusion of other dove species as backfills to other maps. Just like with this map, I'm wondering if, since they've talked about backfilling a little bit more in recent days, that maybe in the future they'll backfill the capybara onto Parque Fernando. That would be very cool, if you ask me. So now that we've gone through all of that, I think that the most likely final species roster for this map are going to be for the 4 returning, we've got the white-tailed deer, the puma, the collared peccary, the cinnamon teal, and then for the 4 new species, we have confirmed the jaguar, capybara, black caiman, the vicuña, the taruca deer, the spectacled bear, the coatimundi, and I think that our last 3 species that will be revealed here in a few days are going to be the Andean goose, the viscacha, and the crested tinamou. But what do you guys think? Are you looking forward to the new Intasuyu Purdue Hunting Reserve coming to Call of the Wild? Tell me what species you are most looking forward to and what species you think could be those 3 empty new spaces in the comments down below. We will know in just a few days here. But that's going to do it from me here today. Until next time, this has been Kaiser Dracone. Rock on, everybody.